Would it help if you, let's say, put out like class lists, so you can probably list the class list or the professors, so we can see if any of us were in those classes, if teachers can talk to us?
Yeah, definitely.
And also I found that professors that have the least expensive classes usually are the ones that are gonna respond most frequently. So I guess just the reason for you sharing that list with us would be to see if any of us we knew any people in those classes that we could have person reach out to classes.
Okay.
Instead of you sending an email, because I've definitely had to talk to professors and said I've emailed you 3 times.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten a response, so.
So you're using the list too? So if one of us takes a class like that and then we have the textbook, would it be beneficial for us to donate it to the library?
To donate your old textbook?
Yes.
That's a good question. Probably yes. I'd have to talk with collections because I'm not in collections. So the library does try to have at least one textbook for every course. So yeah, I'll definitely ask.
Yeah, have you asked departments, because I know like when I do bring up, for example, the price of a textbook, particularly out from the Spanish department, they say the Spanish department has their own, like, the professors have to follow what the department wants.
Yeah.
They can't really change that, so I think it'd be beneficial if you talk to departments too.
Yes. Yeah, so you're definitely right. Like some departments pick as a department and then other ones it's the faculty themselves pick.
Any other comments?
I was just gonna say, I think another way you could contribute to the cause, because I think this is like a campus-wide issue that everyone relates to and cares about, is just like Taylor said, an advocacy. But I think just like raising awareness in general, I think if more students knew that this was an option and that there are people on campus working towards this issue, more students would want to get involved and more students would raise the concern. So I think both our social media and just like in general promotion of the work that we're doing, I think this would be something that we could highlight on our website or just like, I think raising awareness about this issue is part of the battle. So, yeah, I just think that's a way we can contribute.
Any other comments or questions, Taylor?
I know we had talked about like targeting the most, well, as you said, like classes with the most expensive books and the highest number of enrollment or highest enrollment. And so like that obviously at our university is most likely pre-med classes, like our science classes. Those books are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so like thinking about, I don't know what classes you have on your list for next semester or for the previous semester, but I'm sure it's including science classes.
Yeah.
If you know kids who are in those, like start collecting the narratives, the stories of those students. What did you have to not buy? You had to buy this book, right? Like, I think that's important. Invoking the empathy of our professors would probably be
Any other comments or questions?
So going on with that, so since the highest price books are like science and then pre-med, you can go to like the student organizations like local MedLife. I'm sure that like more of them at least will help you with that because they have their own like targeted audience of like pre-med students.
Okay. Jocelyn?
I know there's also a Facebook group where students sell their books.
Yeah.
So I didn't find out not so long ago. So maybe like you can like make a post in there as well. Because I mean, if students are already selling their books and have already started the process of doing this, I feel like adding that like, information into there is like already like a start where students are actually going to be involved in it. And as an initiative that's like, oh, we've been doing it, but like finally someone in the actual institution who attend is taking matters into their own hands. So we can definitely just make a post there as well.
And to follow up on the point that was made earlier, I think individual departments also usually have student clubs. So like, I know CUPPA, for example, there's multiple student clubs that live within CUPPA. just because I'm a cover, I know that, but I know individual departments like have student clubs in them, and those probably be good places to start, and asking, and like, I'm sure those student organizations could name what classes are super expensive, and, so I think another point of advocacy and entry, could be those spaces as well. Talia?
So off of, being able to kind of donate your books to the bookstore, possibly providing monetary, yes, for the books, if they're in good enough condition, I'd say. Instead, because some people sell their books because they need some of that money back.
Yeah.
Instead of just having to give it away, because some people can't really afford to just give it away. So I'd say maybe possibly if it's in a good enough condition, just sell them or give them money for the books that they're doing.
You can also work with the Roosevelt Institute. They do a lot of advocacy projects, especially on campus, so they'd be interested in this.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the next order of business is ex officio reports. May we start with the report of the advisor? Welcome back. The next order of business is officer reports. We'll start with the report of the vice president.
So welcome back from winter break. I hope you all had a great time relaxing, enjoying yourself. And I hope the first 2 weeks of school have treated you well and that you're gonna have a prosperous and successful spring semester. Thank you to Janet from the UIC Library for coming to talk to us today. This is a true necessity, or work is a necessity at this university, and we are happy about the opportunities to collaborate with you on this. And Michelle has graciously accepted trying to be the point person for USG. So not saying that she's the only one that's going to be doing this collective project, but when we're talking about targeted missions, Michelle should be the person who you can go to. Yeah, so she's open to contact and emails. And open source textbooks are definitely a cornerstone of making sure that we can provide like quality higher education, but also making sure that like people can access it, right? And so I thought this is a great opportunity. Moving along, I've been working on the land acknowledgement. I think I've mentioned it before. And so we have like a kind of loose committee right now with the Great Cities Institute, the Department of Public and Government Affairs, or the Office of Government and Public Affairs, the Whole House, and the Native American Support Program for reaching out to student organizations who can also identify with Native American and the displaced communities of the Halsted neighborhood. And so we're working on a proposal to present to the chancellor next semester. So like we would like that project to happen in September. So, but the work will be ongoing, thinking about like public dialogues and workshops and a potential art project on campus. So stay tuned as I can provide more details about that. And then Black History Month is coming up. The first event is this Friday. It will be the Black Expo and the Blackout. So the Black Expo is taking place at 11 a.m. and it will be surrounding the bookstore. So please go through. And then the Blackout will take place at 5 p.m. On the East Terrace. So I will be out of town on Friday, but I hope to be there with you in spirit, and I hope to hear all of the great things and see all of the good pictures. And then also, you all have passed funding for the independent student newspaper. We're still working on making sure that we can get that money allocated to them. But as of right now, one of the guys on the committee has graciously donated his portfolio website that he pays for. So they're uploading a few articles. I think they posted their first article today. So I can share that with y'all. It's about UI's president's increase in his salary. Y'all should check that out. It's absurd. So the State of the Students is also next Wednesday board members. Anyway, everybody's talking. So talking about the work that USG has done and is going to do and the issues on campus of students. So we're passing around flyers. Dalia is deputy program manager for that. So that's cool. And then the gala is gonna happen this semester. And it's in my duties to make sure that committee is happening by the second meeting. So I'll be sending out information about a gala planning committee. And I already have the information from Cynthia about last year's cost of venue. So this will be the 3rd annual gala of USG, and I think it's gonna be great. It is gonna be great with all of y'all's support. So that concludes my report. Any questions?
If not, the report of vice president will be followed. Next, we have the report of the treasurer.
Hello everyone. I hope everyone is well. I've been kind of working on with the AMA to kind of figure out what is the approximate amount that might be that I will be representing for next week. I'll be bringing up the resolution regarding funding, whether they're going to fund them or not. So they have requested a huge amount of funds. I'm probably cutting them down. So just kind of I want you all to be aware of that. Our first external organization funding resolution will be popping up next week. So just kind of be aware that if you kind of be aware of what are the appropriate amount that you all think of. So yeah, I'll bring that up. I'll present it next week and vote it the following week. And the other business that I'll be talking about is I'm not sure if I should. There are kind of slight I've got this funding request that's from the West Campus necessarily. I was just wondering if any of the opinions from you all to kind of input on that. What do you guys think of sort of having the West Campus activities being funded by the East Camp kind of undergrad? Yeah.
I have separate questions. The first is, are they undergrads?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm cutting them down to undergrad. She said she's kind of allocating. She needs funds for herself and professor. Professor. I don't think we know about, but they are undergrad students.
So I think that there's a couple issues at play here. One, we still don't have an outline yet based on we've been talking about from the beginning of the year, what our standards and outlines are gonna be for how we decide to fund student organizations.
Right,
We still don't have those.
That's
So
gonna
I
pop
think
up
it's
next
gonna be-
week.
I'm just saying, I think it's gonna be tough for us to allocate any funds if we don't have any standards for which we're allocating money in general. Because I don't want there to be a student club that we pass funding for, and then the next one comes up and they feel like they got different treatment, and we
Right,
can't
that's
prove they didn't because we don't have standards and procedures for how we fund student
And
orgs.
whether
So that's-
there is a standard that's written out from the handbook that's given by the SSB. So I'll probably outline from that standpoint.
From who?
I mean, from Crystal, but I wouldn't want to mention Crystal at this moment because Crystal's not here anymore, so.
Well, I think those are like actual procedural, like how you attain funding, but that doesn't necessarily outline how we as an organization should decide whether or not we fund a student org. But Dean Wright has something to say.
No, so what you receive from our office is basically what can and that cannot be.
Right.
It's not necessarily guidelines that would dictate how you or the body would allocate funding to students.
I mean, I feel like this is a conversation we can have later on within that guideline. There is kind of saying that we shouldn't contradict with the SAFC funding that we had previously. So I'm just kind of, I don't want that,
No, and I agree, and I think that would be part of the outline, right? And part of the
Right.
guidelines, but there's a separate part of the guidelines that we have not discussed yet.
Right.
And that is about, outside of just like, let's not contradict SAFC funding, there's a whole lot of questions that we still have yet to answer as a body about what type of things we want to fund or not fund.
Right.
And then how we as a student organization should be voting against or for
Right.
funding certain things.
Right.
And so because I haven't seen that, I still would be concerned about giving money to anyone. And on top of that, I think because we haven't funded anyone, and because we don't have those things, it would be hard to make any deviation from funding anything but undergraduate student activities that are specifically outlined
Right.
in some of the bills that we passed earlier this year. So I just think we should all be very mindful and very critical of any funding allocation before we all pass a resolution that has guidelines about how we're analyzing funding requests.
Yeah, wait, are you finished?
No, then let me just kind of finish my report. I'll definitely get that scheduled beforehand. And the other news that I'll talk about is I'll be having my, I'll be having my office. Are we having? Yeah, my office hour will probably be between, for this semester, between, on Wednesday from 12 to 1, it seems, so, yeah.
Is that your report?
Yeah.
Are there any questions, Davey?
So my question was, so how you mentioned that we need to have a resolution. Do you have any, do you know when that resolution might come up? Would it be next week or afterwards?
I'm still having some points that I doubt, like in terms of funding guidelines. But I will probably present at least something next week. I don't know if that will be in forms of resolution, but I'll definitely have some things to discuss next week. Yeah, definitely. But if that's finished work or not.
I just want to be very clear that, we don't have guidelines right now.
Right.
That dictate how we should be funding a student organization. So I would urge the body, like I can't vote, but I would urge you guys to not fund anyone until there is a passed resolution that says this is how, as a body, we will determine whether or not we are funding this organization.
Right, I mean, I definitely, but then the process of, we have to be aware that we have to be cautious in terms of creating that guideline, if that's because we have not had guidelines before, that this will be something new in terms of like Treasury Committee, and then this will basically create a new process of funding, and hopefully, in terms of if we make this kind of process, we won't need to go forward and kind of continue the legacy. So I feel like in terms of making this guideline, we have to be careful and not like rush.
Yeah.
I encourage the body to this conversation for items of discussion. Items for discussion, just because since this is reports, I think it'd be more efficient for us to all finish our reports and then thoroughly discuss this under items for discussion where everyone can comment and question. So do you have a final question?
Yeah. Final comment. We've had the entire first semester of the year to come up with them, so I don't think we're rushing. And secondly, I think the point was to create new guidelines because there were a lot of complaints and I think very valid concerns about how we allocated funding last year. It was not transparent. People did not know how to properly ask for funding and how we were going to evaluate the requests. So I think this is just super important, and I just want to put that out there that, it's up to you all as a legislative branch, but I think we had this discussion at the beginning of the year and anticipated by now to already have those guidelines. So that's my final,
Any further comments for Steve? If not, treasurer's report will be filed. Next we have my report. So welcome back everyone. It's great to see you. Happy New Year, happy decade. So something I've been working on since the end of last semester is with Lars. I've been working with a few students in protesting against the inclusion of Lars in the Student Success Center. So I kind of briefly mentioned last semester that the administrations, specifically the provost Susan Moser, was spearheading the Student Success Center. And I have a memo and everything which I can upload into Box so that you guys can inform yourselves more. But basically it would include a lot of cultural, support programs like Laura's, Chiboyan, Trio, in addition to other support programs under one umbrella. The reason why Laura's and a few students, such as myself, are protesting the addition of Laura's into that program is because it would lose their autonomy. They're at the stake of losing their autonomy and budget. This past year, 41% of first year for first year students or Latinos. So for us, it's really important that the growing Latino population at UIC is able to be supported, especially if retention is one of our goals as a school. So last week, a few of the students and I met with the chancellor and Provost Susan to talk about our concerns, and we've also been talking to a few state legislators like Edel Mathies and Lisa Hernandez about that. So we're currently just in the process of advocating in support of Laura's. And something else that I've been working on is that, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a commuter survey sent out to all of us. It was an email, so I guess most of us didn't see it. But I was really interested in knowing about the results. So I contacted Christina, and I have set up a meeting with her next week to talk about what I can do, and in addition, anyone that's interested here, to help get that survey out. And also after the responses are collected, I'll be meeting with her to go over the responses and also see what we can do to tackle any issues students brought up. I know big issues like space, the commuter student resource center is very small, but that's like the one issue that I really know about, so we'd really like to learn more. And if you guys are interested in that, definitely let me know. I can put you in contact with Christina, we can even go to the meeting together. Lastly, Daisy and I have scheduled our hours for our meetings for Tuesdays at 8 p.m. And this week, my office hours will be Friday from 3 to 5. I open for questions. If not, my report is filed. Next, we have the report of the chief of staff, but there is currently no chief of staff, so we'll skip to the report of the diversity and inclusion committee chair.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great. If you forgot my name was Jocelyn Ortiz. I'm saying it out there. I hope you all had a great and relaxing break. I saw your little Snapchat story, so I'm doing very well. We also have several events planned for the rest of the semester. My committee and other organizations on campus have literally done so much already, and I made them pop out during their break and their weekend. So we have everything set out, not the only ones that we have so far. One of our first events is actually February 12th from 3 to 4:30. I will be sending it to Daniela to add it within the event newsletter. It's basically male allies in the era of the hashtag #MeToo movement. Just to commemorate a lot of things that have been happening on campus, especially student safety. Another event actually on February 26th, and it's basically gender-based violence in the LGBTQIA community, storytelling and critical reflections. So that's being basically emphasizing these things do happen to everybody. It doesn't have a specific background. You don't have to be a certain color or a certain race or anything like that for these things to happen to you or be prevented. So it's just a very safe space for students to go in there as well. And to go off what Jocelyn said, I was talking to Taylor as well about this and having a huge summit for Black and Latino students, specifically women. That being said, as the Latino population in UIC stays increasing, the Black student retention rate at UIC is still low. It is still 8%. To be specific, it is 8.63%. Still 8%. It's still a single number. We're not gonna count the numbers after the decimal because it's still a singular number. That being said, I'm gonna try definitely my absolute best to get in contact with UIUC, which my friend's actually the one coordinating the event at UIUC, to bring it here at UIC, to make it annually as well. Not only just to commemorate all the students that have gone through several different events on this campus, but to specifically remember that the Black student retention rate is still 8%. And Black students exist on this campus. They exist and they're thriving on this campus, but it is still 8%. Let's make that 10%, let's make that 20%, let's make that at this point 80-something%. I'm fine with it, we're fine with it, and that's what we're trying to get. That being said, I'm probably gonna send all the events to Daniela at this point so we can get started. This year is not gonna end just that quickly. And even if we don't do certain events this semester, there's still next year and years after that. So please stay tuned for all these events. I'm very excited to work with you all this year, with this specific semester that we have left. So please stay tuned. watch our stories on Instagram, to see our little flyers. And if you have any questions, please email me. My email personally is jarand22@uic.edu. Or you can search up my name, Jocelyn Aramapis, and you'll see me. But that is all. Is there any questions?
Question. So is it 8% retention rate or is it 8% total population?
It is, the 8% retention rate.
It's
Total population.
yeah, total population of undergrads, but like,
So it's
Yeah.
not the retention rate.
What's the?
yeah, I mean, that's,
So
Yeah,
is
that's
it,
pretty
is
good, yeah.
it retention
But it's-
rate is 8% or is
no,
it?
it's total
population?
population
Okay, okay.
of
It's
undergrads.
Yeah, but retention is different.
Anyway, it's still 8% everybody, so remember that. If you have any questions, thank you for clarifying too though. I appreciate it. Keep the number in your head. It might increase.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, the next report is the report of the Legislative Affairs Committee.
Hi, everyone. I hope you guys all had a good break and a good start to your semester. It's really been like 2 months, really 2 months. Like, oh my gosh. So, I hope you guys all been well since then. So this week, my committee and I, and Taylor as well, okay, we're all headed to Springfield on Wednesday, just to, basically be familiar with what's going on in the Capitol building, meet legislators. So that's pretty exciting. This is the unofficial, lobby day event. That's not, the actual lobby day isn't until February. So this winter break, I've, met up with, members of administration, the chancellor, chief of police. Basically, it was the security task force that, the chancellor put together after the, Ruth George incident that happened in November. It was sort of like the thing that was put together and we basically talked about, things that need to change on campus. Basically trying to change the culture to make everyone's safety, everyone's responsibility. One thing that was emphasized was that everyone should download the UIC safety app. They were trying to implement that into, like, making it, an obligation for students, the same way that, you know, how like students can't sign up for classes or like their accounts were put on hold if they didn't take the Title IX surveys. But we talked about instead implementing it in the orientation so that all incoming students, at least there should be a step added where everyone should just add that to their phone. And then one thing I did talk about was the lack of trust between the student body and Title IX, because there is a problem in not just the actual cases, but the actual processing of cases. There are a lot of pending cases that people really don't talk about this because Title IX is a very like sensitive subject, but there are people who are brave enough to speak up and report, and the system has just sadly made an example out of way too many girls. And so I spoke to the chancellor about it, and the thing about Title IX is that campuses that have Title IX coordinators, those coordinators are there to sort of keep the university in check so that incidents that happen between students and staff or students and faculty don't just get swept under the rug. But whenever, if Title IX doesn't get, or can't get, like, isn't kept in check by university or students, that's not just a problem, it's a crisis. And I did bring up how Jocelyn, at some point in the school year, tried to gather data from our Title IX here and was absolutely shut down. And one of our goals, actually, this administration, was to at least see what's going on with the numbers, to see what's going on here and at other campuses. So I have been trying to at least see what's been going on in that sense. I also attended there was a safety town hall meeting last week. And basically students and staff were talking about things that they wanted to change. There is a problem, and I did bring this up, the lighting between the walk between SCE and the library.
Yes.
If you've noticed, the lampposts, like if you go near BSB or even like other places on campus are bright, but it's a little bit more dim, that walk. So it's not just a lack of lighting. I think lampposts need to be added. And the thing is that there are incidents that happen. UIC will be held liable if they weren't able to provide the lighting, you know, just to actually just protect students in that sense. There was a member of the board, I believe, of UIC Law School who did emphasize that at the meeting, at the safety task force meeting, not at the town hall. So that's one thing. And then another thing was just the presence of police after that incident that happened with the false shooting. There are people who were like, we need more cops on campus, but at the same time, having more cops is a little bit alarming because you sort of go like, what's going on? And then we do have students of color that obviously like the relationship between them and then just police force in general isn't as like strong. And then undocumented students as well, we have to keep that in mind. So there is a little bit of conflict between what students want, what staff wants, what the staff wants, what the police department think is best. And then I don't have committee meeting times chosen yet. I'm gonna ask if my committee members can email me tonight or tomorrow what times works for them so that we can have that figured out. And are there any questions?
It's just more of an add-on, to about the lights on the far and as well as behind the SES. I did meet with, building management, especially with the lighting management. I had a meeting with them in the morning, it was like the second day of school or something. And I did tell them about the incident, like how dim the area is, even like it's so like dark, especially in the quad as well as behind SES. They did a market, they're gonna send me the blueprints, they said by the end of, well, they did by the end of this month, the beginning of next month, regarding where they're gonna put the light poles at. I can definitely send you all a picture instead of sending you a blueprint. If not, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna go through a little visit. But I'll definitely keep you all updated on that, specifically because it's very important. So it's all based on your safety as well.
Can I make the recommendation that maybe a part of the safety app is like you can report light outages? Because the lights between just Student Center East and like MRH is like the farthest point. The lights in between there go out very frequently, and like the light outside of MRH, for example, has been out like since the beginning of the year. And it's a space where a lot of public and like a lot of people are coming in and out. It can feel very unsafe around that area. And I mean, last time we met with Chief Booker, even I brought that up, and it still hasn't been resolved. So I think that their response to me was that the student patrol is supposed to be reporting light outages, but clearly that system is not the most effective. So maybe that's another way students could report light outages, but just a thought.
There is, because the student patrol is supposed to be reporting out like light outages, but like there's even the problem of just dim lighting in the quads. They're not really lamp posts. And another thing is even West Campus was a complaint. There's a lot of parking garages around a lot of these hospitals, and I think the assumption is that because the hospitals are so busy or because it's so much going on that nothing is going to happen. But it is, the whole lighting situation is something that administration is actually actively working on right now. So our next meeting is February 10th. So if you guys have any concerns or questions or anything you guys want me to bring up, let me know. I can definitely add that to the conversation.
Any further questions or concerns? If not, we'll move on to the next order of business. The next thing is report of public relations committee chair. Is there someone from public? Yes.
Nada couldn't make it, but she sent me her report. She says, hello everyone, I hope you all had a great winter break and enjoyed the holidays and the time off with your families and loved ones. I also hope that the first couple of weeks of school were good for you. I'm sorry for not being here with you all for our first USG meeting of the spring semester, but I have something important to do with my family at home, and I had to leave early right after my last class. Just some quick updates. I am working on updating our Instagram page with pictures we still have to post. My committee and I will be meeting later this week for our first PRC meeting of the term. And we'll discuss important topics such as designing our new merch items, our 2 big events for the term, working on the USG board, and much more. Just a quick reminder, please send Deepa your professional headshot merch picture. Actually, we probably will be changing that around. Now we got 2 of you over winter break, so thank you for the 2 of you. So we might be changing that up, so I'll let you know if we're actually going to continue with that. And she will be sending an email very soon with quick reminders and updates of PRC.
Thank you. The next report is the report of the Student Life Committee Chair.
Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? Hope everyone enjoyed their winter break. I don't really have anything to touch on today. I'm not sure when my committee meetings are going to be. I'm gonna talk to my committee after this meeting and figure that out. But yeah, I have a lot of plans for this semester. We're gonna get stuff done, pretty productive, successful semester for everyone.
Thank you. The next order of business is items for discussion. Oh, of course. The next order is the report of the president.
Hi, everybody. I hope you guys had a restful winter break. I'm just gonna go over some housekeeping. I want to announce that currently the chief of staff position is vacant. That happened over winter break. There's gonna be an announcement in the coming weeks about the replacement for that position. But there's not gonna be an open source application or anything, or just the Constitution says that person. So that's how that's gonna go. For executive board, I know people haven't gotten their stipends yet, but we did do a follow-up and they are being processed and they are on their way. So don't worry, you will be paid. I want to thank Cynthia, even though she's not here anymore, for coming to remind everybody about spring elections. I want to talk about it a little bit because I think as we kind of talked about at the beginning of the year, our goal moving forward is to emphasize elections for everyone in the body, not just the executive board. So if your term is up this year, you're gonna run for a position. There's not gonna be, like, the application process is gonna be if there are so many vacancies that it's an issue next semester. So be prepared February 3rd to go on the website, look at the applications, know what you're, you know what I mean, what you wanna do and what you're gonna say. Because that is the expectation, that is how you run a student government, is that everyone is elected into their position. So like, start thinking about that and be prepared, encourage your friends, encourage other people who want to be involved to get involved. I wanna ask the e-board to stay after this meeting for a conversation and check-in, because I'm gonna be making a very important announcement during announcement section today. So that's gonna be a conversation. Then also for the e-board, if you guys could send your new office hours and committee meeting times to Taylor and Jocelyn by the end of this week, and to you too? Yeah. Okay, yeah. By the end of this week, that would be great, so that we can get everything on the website and know when people are having their committee meetings and office hours. We can update outside of the office when people's office hours are. I yield for questions.
Are there any questions or comments? If not, the president's report is filed. Next, we have items for discussion. So I had written down spring new member elections because I did want to discuss if there were going to be any spring elections, spring applications. But just based on our conversation before the meeting, there's not, so we're just going to just do spring elections. Are there any further comments or questions for student new member applications?
February 3rd, remember that.
So we did say that we would discuss the budget process during items for discussion. So I do open up the floor for discussion of that, and if anyone would like to comment or question the application process for funding. Does anyone have a comment or question about that? Rish?
I just have a question on, what's the timeline for the American?
It's very flexible. Their event is happening on like beginning of March. So I can sort of reach that. I can schedule that after having this proposal. So, yeah.
Any other comments or questions regarding the funding process? Anyone?
I also want to remind y'all that it was my suggestion that the outline be on the website and that there maybe be a tab specifically on the website.
There was
like, yeah,
but
it says funding, but it doesn't have anything on it.
It says coming soon.
Yeah, so like it says coming soon. It's been soon for a while. So I think we should make sure that things are on there. And I think me and Steve had discussions about there being an online application, and so making sure, yeah, an online Google form, so making sure that that gets on the website,
So
would be helpful.
I sent you, so the Google form is almost finished. I think it'll be, if I just get it confirmed from her, I think it should be done. So if I just send it to you, would it be like?
Is it a link or,
It's a link to, Google form that
so
they.
technically we can just put it like, here's a link to apply for,
Yeah.
yeah, and just,
Once we have it, it's very easy to put on board.
yeah, it's easy.
It's been a while since like we last discussed, adding this part to the bylaws. What exactly was approved? Was it the actual process of, like the process they have to go through, the student loans have to go through?
We approved grant amounts and what the grants are for. So like for student boys who are and have up to such and such amount. And that's
And we also approved how internally, we can approve funds.
Right.
That's what we approved at the
We
beginning.
haven't, I see, we had a problem of like, as of now system, we can technically fund, like non-UIC students. That's what could have happened last, year. So like those are the hidden areas that we're trying to, build and try to, like maintain concrete details so that everyone's aware and kind of agree on the funding that we are funding. So I think those are like the fundamental foundations of the, guidelines.
This is my last, comment on this. I think the goal with the guidelines is, for example, if a club of 250 people ask us to fund something for $13 a person for all members, and it's for some, you know what I mean, some event or something, what is the, like, as a body, when they present that, what am I trying to say, request, yeah, resolution or whatever, what criteria should we be using to analyze whether that request is valid or not, right? So is it open to all UIC students? Should there be a cap of, I don't know, like if a student org represents more than 150 people, is there some separate set of rules that we can use to help get them more money or less money, or like those are the, and if a club has an appeal and like got denied funding and they want to know why, like how do we notify them? What process do we use to notify them? You know, when they need to be in front of us and when they, you know, get their funding, like those are the types of questions that, like, if you're a student org and you're coming to us and asking for funding, our website says it's coming soon. How do you know how to ask for money? And then how do you know what to include in your proposal if we don't have any guidelines, right? So like that's the goal of the guidelines, is like, we don't wanna, every time somebody requests funding from us, be starting from ground zero. Like, well, how do we decide whether or not this is an appropriate amount of money to give them? And how do we decide whether or not they get funding or not? Because there's a lot of gray area. Because it's the outlines we have from SAFC and Dean of Students Office are very general. So that's my last comment on that.
Talia? Just to kind of go off what Alina said and to inform some of the newer members, last year, there were a lot of requests for funding that the body was torn on. And some of the requests came in for things really last minute and they got approved, and some people came in like a month and they got disapproved. And some of them were for actual events that we felt really were important to student wellness. And they got disapproved, whereas some were, or they took a while to get approved, whereas some were kind of just more casual, or like they could have funded it themselves, but they wanted us to fund it type things. So I think a lot of us, whenever funding did come up, it was, so why are we approving this? Why are we disapproving this? And how are we gonna go about this? And that would usually take up the entire discussion period. And it would then carry on into the next week, so we couldn't even go to the budget and pass it and things like that. And, so I think it's important that we have a guideline because I remember that it would take like more than 3 weeks of us deliberating. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, it would take us more than 3 weeks.
Right.
To actually pass something. Instead of us saying, okay, here it is, kind of like a resolution, here it is, let's discuss it. We approve it, and then we do it next week. We
Right.
usually take at least 3 weeks for that because we need 2 periods of discussion instead of just the one. That's it.
Any other questions?
Well, just a general comment that, you know, your budget USD's budget comes from student fee. And so you are, ideally, you're supposed to be good stewards of the funding that you receive, because it is coming from students. And so, I was not a part of USG last year, but I did hear that there were some concerns. And so I think the whole purpose of the guidelines is to give you all a framework or a rubric from which you can work from, in which to make decisions. Because ultimately, whole goal should be transparent, so that if student organizations do come to this body and ask why we were or not funded, you can clearly articulate to them the rationale. Also, by having the guidelines up front, student organizations are better able to prepare their proposals to this body, so that you aren't deliberating for long periods of time, so that you are being efficient and effective and throughout the meeting process as well.
I do have another comment, like looking at the USG website, it says under funding, like contact Steve Troy, but it doesn't have an email. Also I got 2 emails this past month for funding, so, I'm not sure if you guys have been like forwarding friends or something. I just find it interesting that I was emailed about funding, but definitely having more transparency as like who's in charge of that would be great.
Just to be very clear, like, it is Steve and his committee's like responsibility, and there's nothing on the website that tells student orgs, and we haven't approved any funding for any student orgs. So like, just to be transparent, like, no one has gotten any money that you guys don't know about.
Yeah.
And in general, like, it is supposed to go to Steve and his committee to decide. So like, we're not in any situation yet, but like, my concern is student orgs have been waiting, and I know off the top of my head a couple requests that are gonna come to us. So let's be prepared to be good stewards of our money and do it well.
Taylor?
And then to reiterate, piggyback off of that, it's in our constitution that we pass and fund organizations, right? That's a part of the legislative body's duties. It's also a part of the treasurer's duties. We have a lot of money that should have been spent 50-50 in the semesters. And because we don't have these applications, it hasn't been spent. So now we gotta make up for last semester, this semester, and do this semester's work. So we can't wait any longer. This has to be passed immediately, and we need to start advertising to student organizations, how they can get this money, and giving it to them.
Daisy?
Would it be possible to have a resolution presented next week and make an executive order?
I can,
You would just get to Steve to create.
yeah, I will
treasurer to
definitely,
create.
if that's the case, I will definitely, have the great inclusion. If it's an executive order, can we edit the pre-meeting?
So what?
If the,
Amended?
yeah, if it can be amended, if it is.
But if it's sent before the deadline on Saturday, members will have access to it, so once the agenda is uploaded, please make sure to read through it, come in with questions, because we want to be as efficient as possible during our meetings and not discuss the same questions for half an hour. Any further comments or questions? Steve?
I just want you all to know that I will be, just send me an email this week about your opinions in terms of funding guidelines, so I can kind of include that, be more of inclusive, and I will be there Wednesday from 12 to 1, probably 12 to 2, so just come drop by and get any opinions.
Any further questions or concerns? If not, we can move on from this discussion. Are there any other items that you need to discuss, Jocelyn?
So in April, we are having, it's sort of like a town hall, it's a very big event, regarding Title IX and its market failures. That being said, it's basically student-led panel. So we're having grad students and undergrad students. So if you know anyone, from either your organization, mutual friends, or anything within that sort, that have gone through, and I'm sorry to say this pretty bluntly, through sexual misconduct in UIC, and they have gone through Title IX, or they've never gone through Title IX, and they're willing to go through to be a panelist, please let them know. You can send them my email, or you can just shoot me a text or a message. You can find me anywhere on social media. You will be getting a little goodie bag as well. But it's just basically just to inform the student body and the general body at UAC that these things do happen, like I did say, and to everybody. So please keep that at the top of your heads if you do know anyone or someone's willing to actually do it. And if you have any questions regarding it, you can also send me an email or a text message that can clarify it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items for discussion? Taylor?
I was gonna say this during announcements, but I feel like it could be a discussion. So, State of the Students has been planned since the beginning of November. I've had these spirits since then. And so this is, I'm trying to provide context. So we went to a conference, and we listened to what other student governments do and kind of how they engage with their student bodies. And State of the Students was one of the things where it's okay, it's a midway point, our chancellor gives the state of the university, our president gives the state of the union, the governor gives the state of the state, and it's just a midway point, how are we doing and what are we gonna continue to do? And so your support is needed. And it's not mandatory because it's not in the Constitution, but highly suggested. And business casual and invite a friend and advertising the event as well. And there'll be cookies and punch afterwards, so you can mingle with other people who are invited, and former trustees and directors of departments here, so you can build your network personally and so that you can produce better work this semester as a student government. And so this is just it's not a celebration, but a check-in, a big check-in. And your committee directors will be speaking. And so it is a big check-in, and they're gonna highlight their work. And it's gonna be amazing, and I can't wait to see all of you there. So if you have any questions or discussions, comments, I'm open, yes.
Is there a
A flyer, yes, I'll send it to Daniela, sorry. And yeah, but I think I sent it out to y'all this morning. You should have all got it. And then I messed up the link, but y'all should have another link and another email, sorry, yeah.
So, I have a class that's partially conflicts with it. Would you please contact me?
Yeah, it's from 5 to 7.
Any other questions?
Is it required to RSVP?
It's because you're a member now. I mean, none of it is required. It's not giving out anything free, but we like to know. We're gonna have name tags, so if you want a name tag, we print it. I mean, IDARs.
Any other questions or comments? If not, are there any, Dahlia?
I just wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit. So I think it's a great way for students to not only just talk to other students, especially students in leadership positions that are doing things for the student body, but also every single time something is passed or something on campus happens, it's always the chancellor or UIC police or Title IX that we're hearing about. And it's usually not very good things. So I think State of the Students is important for us to get the word out, because there's a lot of things that we can be doing on campus, and a lot of people just aren't aware that we can be doing them. And so State of the Students is a good way to kind of get our name out there and have people know what we are doing and what we have been doing, and be touch base with the people that we're serving that don't necessarily come to these meetings. That being said, I'm gonna be going into all of the meetings that I'm gonna have this week and next week and be broadcasting it. So if you guys could also do that, that'd be great.
Any further questions or comments?
This is also slightly connected. So we actually have on the website, we have highlights news and events. And the last event was posted October 11th. So we can actually put this event as well as other items that were discussed. And we should I just need to know for sure what exactly we need to put it there. So because it's like homepage and it's the first thing you can see when you open the website.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment about how we should add, like, from any of these committees, all the committees, we should just send them to her, like, say, these are events, and then she puts them on the website, so that people go on the website, will bring type of information, they can see, oh, we're gonna that committee.
I think that just like moving forward, I know this is a discussion that we had before break, that can continue, but I think an internal process for like, whether it's a Google form or something that you check like once a week or something, where everyone in the body can submit events, or updates to the website, so that like once a week, the website is just getting updated with, the calendar is getting updated, would be nice, but in the meantime, definitely send, things you want on the website her way. Does that make sense?
To comment, we also have a YouTube channel. So if you guys are planning to broadcast anything, like we are live streaming right now, please CC me.
Any other comments?
Yeah, we're live streaming. It's been 1 hour since we've been live streaming. Oh, we have 2 viewers so far. I'm happy. Woo!
Are there any other items that need to be discussed? Three?
So quorum is 2/3, right?
Quorum is, majority.
Oh, so just as long as one. Okay.
Any other items that need to be discussed? If not, we can move on to the next order of business, which is announcements. Are there any announcements?
I have one, but I want to wait, so.
Period's having another event on Thursday. Yes, in the Latino Cultural Center Gallery, also called LC Lecture Center B2. It'll be at 5:30 p.m. and I'll try to get some food for us. So come through. There's gonna be a lot of people. Yeah.
Say the date and time.
Oh, it's on Thursday. This Thursday, 5:30 in the Lecture Center, or sorry, Latino Cultural Center Gallery, or also LC B2. Yeah.
That was.
Any other announcements?
Yes.
Selena?
Oh,
no,
go ahead.
honestly, you can go first.
No. I want everybody else to get all their announcements out of the way before I make my announcement.
No, it's not really an announcement. I just want to remind everyone to just make sure that they're very careful and wash your hands like every time. Wash your hands. If you guys can get your flu shots, get them. If not, just take extra precautions. If you see someone cough into the air, you better say something about it. Like sneeze in your sleep, cover your cough. Just be careful. This is a really, really populated city. And with a very populated city comes like, not everything is as like sanitized, not everything is as clean. I just want to make sure that everyone's taking care of themselves. Yeah. Coronavirus is real, it's out here.
Are there any other announcements?
Just really quick, send me everything, please, so I could, remember you have like till tonight, or like early in the morning, and I'll be sending like the recap email tomorrow.
Any other announcements?
Okay. So, I want to say thank you again for a really amazing fall semester. I think we did a lot of really important building up of this organization. I think we learned a lot of lessons last year, and we worked really hard this past semester to set us up to do really great work in the coming months. With that being said, it is with a very heavy heart that I announce that I'm formally resigning from my position as president. I'm super proud of everyone and the work that our e-board did last semester, including, work around the mental health coalition building, supporting LGBTQIA students on campus, just bettering our transparency as an organization, and being super mindful and being intentional about building more student engagement on campus and student engagement with our organization. Taylor and I have talked a lot about this transition and feel like it's going to go smoothly and well.
I'd be happy to talk to anybody who has questions about the transition later on after this meeting, or if you send me an email or want to call, that's fine. But I know you guys are going to continue to do amazing work. So I want to thank you guys for allowing me to lead and for wanting to serve the student body. And again, I ask that you board stay after so that we can have a discussion. But again, thank you. And I am sad that I've had to do this, but I think it's both what's best for me and what's best for the board. So thank you. That's my announcement.
Thank you for being on. So if there are no further announcements, this meeting is adjourned at 7:31.